Hey, greetings, friends. Jacque Howard here, and welcome to another series from the Trenton 365 media outlet. Big up to WIMG 1300 as well as WPHY and the affiliated stations. The WIMG and WPHY partnership with Trenton 365 is expanding, and I'm excited to announce and continue to announce that the programming that I'm putting together is being aired on terrestrial radio and television from Mercer County, New Jersey, south along the Delaware River on both sides of the river to Wilmington, Delaware. And what that means is this provides an opportunity and space to share more contact with a larger audience. And then to also engage that audience. And if you're a nonprofit or you're a small business or you're a cause, this means that your reach provides you a space to control the narrative, share exactly what you're doing through your own methods. If you've got some content and you want to get that out, please get in touch. If you're looking for someone to capture that content for you, help you package it and put it together, I've got a whole team of filmmakers and production folks who can assist with that. So all you need to do is to get in touch. Process is very simple. We'll sit down, we'll have a conversation either in person or virtually. We'll do an initial interview to get you introduced to our audiences and provide a space for you to get comfortable. And then for you to talk about what it is that you do. And then we'll build this campaign around what you're doing so that, again, the narrative is controlled. Think about micro media as a space and opportunity for you to get your word out at a better value, substantially less than dealing with national and regional advertisers. So get in touch via the website, Trenton, the numbers 365.com. Send me an email and I'll talk to you about the package. Now, with that being said, many years ago, I had a chance to meet Phil Woolfolk and Phillip Woolfolk. And we have a shared passion for the importance of bringing people together, creating spaces and opportunities for people to learn, grow, and to thrive. And this is all people, specifically with a hyper focus on people of color. Phil has done things with the African American Chamber of Commerce, the state variety of that. He's still doing some work with them, but he's also an author. He's also someone who's got some passion in martial arts as well. But his main passion is human beings and providing a space and again an opportunity for human beings to learn about what's around them and their surroundings, and then best advising them and supporting them on what they're going to do so that they can thrive in what's here, this environment, this culture that we have, whether it's business, whether it's society, it's policy, all those different things. And that's the importance of making sure that together we're working together to build a better community for everyone. With that being said, bringing on Phil Woolfolk right now. Philip, thank you so much, man,
Hello,
for the
Jacque.
time. Yeah, sometimes when I do these introductions, I get kind of caught up in my head, not only the
Right.
stuff that you have out public, but also the stuff that I've known and I've heard. I didn't even talk about the relationship that you have with the Trenton Microloan Collaborative and the work that you're doing to assist us, with folks there with education, et cetera. But I think that the introduction was enough just to get people a little stimulated. I'm going to pass it over to you, and I'd like for you to do your elevator biography pitch, and then let's go into some of the details about the work that you've been doing.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for having me, Jacque. So, in a nutshell, I guess, you know, I've known you more recently as I was as the Chief Operations Officer of the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey, and you alluded to the work with the local organization and working with the business community. I had an opportunity to do something with a group we call the Minority Small Business Initiative that we worked on with the chamber, and I guess half of the folks in that particular cohort were folks from the organization that you mentioned. So that was really very cool to be able to do that work. And so I spent probably, I want to say 4.5, almost 5 years as the board treasurer for the African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey. And on the other side of that, other side of the pandemic, I became the chief operations officer for the chamber. During the pandemic, the chamber was actually a client of a company I have, which is Main Street Advisory LLC, which I started back in 2015. and had an opportunity to really do a lot of work with the business community across the state. We provided the economic injury disaster loans, the SBA small business paycheck protection program loans during the pandemic. Then on the other side of that, we formed an organization that was in partnership with the largest CDFI in the state, New Jersey Community Capital, and we were able to raise roughly $5 million to basically launch a lending program to support small businesses in their ability to gain access to capital. And then more recently, I transitioned from the chamber back in May of 2024 and went back to my consulting practice, which is Main Street Advisory LLC, where I focus primarily as an alternative lender, basically working with folks to help them obtain access to capital for their businesses, and also doing business credit, working with companies to help them establish business credit so that they can basically expand their overall opportunities to access the funding they need to grow and expand their business. And as you mentioned at the intro about me becoming an author, back in 2023, I formed a company called Phillip Speaks LLC. And that business was really to help me focus on the writing and doing more speaking engagements. And so one of our projects that we completed under that umbrella is Triumph in the Trenches, Navigating Success for Black Professionals. And that's a book that was a collaboration of Black professionals across the country who basically we share our lived experiences dealing with microaggressions, systemic racism, and other barriers in corporate places. And from the title, you kind of get the idea that maybe this is a book for Black professionals, but then the reality is that the book, if you are not a Black professional, but you're in an environment where you're trying to collaborate and build some trust and transparency, and you're an owner or you're running a corporation, and you have people of color in your environment, and you're looking to have some clarity and some understanding about where they sit and what life looks like from their perspective as they deal with these various things, then this book is also for you. I think we have some great folks across the country that collaborated on this effort, and it's it's I would say there's some very traumatic experiences that people have gone through in corporate spaces that if you're not a person of color, you might not be able to relate to some of those issues and some of those predicaments that people find themselves in. But as we look at the mass exodus of people of color and women from the workplace over this past couple of years, a lot of them have gone on to launch their own businesses and left the private sector or left the corporate sector and also the public sector to basically establish something of their own, to be more in the driver's seat as it relates to not only building and establishing equity for themselves, but also creating an environment that is more conducive to their own not only economic well-being but mental well-being. It can be very traumatic when you're in a space where you're not quite appreciated. You might find yourself in an environment where people don't want to listen to your ideas and your thoughts, but then you look up and your ideas and thoughts are being implemented and executed under someone else's name, or you're in a meeting and you feel unheard, and then someone says something and you're thinking in your head, isn't that what I just said? So it sounds like a great idea when it's coming from someone else in the room. It's just a very interesting thing. And Jacque, I had an experience early in my career which manifested into me, and I talk a little bit about this in Triumph in the Trenches. I spent most of my banking career with a resignation letter in my briefcase. And that was born out of an experience I had when a company acquired the bank that I worked for at the time, and they got rid of the commission structure, which I typically was in the top three of producers in that organization. So for me, getting rid of the commission structure was a pay cut. So I asked them in a meeting, were the was that commission going to be replaced with base pay? And the executive responded that he didn't know. And when you grow up in the neighborhood and environment where I did, you have pretty good instincts about people, and I immediately figured, well, this guy's a liar. So I'm not sure that I want to work for him anyway. And
You know,
make a long
so
story short, probably 30 days or so after that, I was out of there, and I kept a resignation letter at the ready because I was I was really just determined to build my own income off to the side. And one of the things I talk about as I give talks around the state and around the country is this whole idea and concept of multiple streams of income. And I say to folks all the time, you might be a junior executive, a senior executive, you have a great job, you have stock options, you have bonuses, you have, all these various things that make that, what we work for, right? We want that good job. But the challenge with that good job is if you get caught up in a lifestyle of living on every dime, you then become a prisoner of that good job. And so I started early on in my career just to decide I wanted to make as much or more on my own outside of my employment because that gave me the freedom. And I used to get teased a lot, by some family members and friends, and folks would always ask me, why do you work so much? You get off your job and you put on your work clothes and you're in one of your houses painting or spackling or doing all this stuff. And I used to say, well, I don't really work for money. I work for freedom.
mm,
And so that's worked well for me, and it's given me an opportunity to really do some things in life that I probably would not have been able to do otherwise. For example, when the terrorists attacked the country on September 11th, 2001, I happened to be at the time a vice president and fair lending manager responsible for fair lending compliance for a 7-state market area. And I was in Pentagon City, right across from the Pentagon, when the Pentagon exploded. And I decided in that moment and in that environment that I wanted to spend more time with my kids, more time with my family. And because I had established a successful real estate investment company, I was able to transition from that job and eventually had an opportunity after spending about 16 months as a chief administrative officer for a local charter school. I got an opportunity to spend about 5 years golfing, camping, swimming, and traveling, and having a great time with my two daughters, and that and that has yielded a excellent relationship all these years later, because I was there with them every day doing all kinds of fun stuff, and being at their school with if they were playing soccer or basketball or making speeches in the auditorium or all the different activities they were involved in, swimming on the weekends and golf lessons on the weekends and Disney World and all these different places and different things that we were able to do over that 5-year period of time. Um, has been I think life changing, and it's been an investment that has continues to show significant returns in terms of just family relationships. So just it's been an interesting life, and I'm happy to continue to be able to work with folks. I was in my family room once with my youngest daughter after coming back from golf lessons one day, And I remember her sitting in a recliner. She kind of put her arms back, had her feet up, and we had the blinds open in the family room. She's looking out in the backyard, and she says, "This is the life." And that resonated with me in a way that really motivated me to want to have some impact on helping other families be in a position that their kids are thinking, this is the life. And I think we all have the ability to create that environment. We just need the proper tools. We need sometimes, at the chamber, the CEO there, John Harmon, always talks about return on investment as resources, opportunities, and information. And sometimes we lack the resources, we lack the information, and because we lack that resource and information, we miss out on opportunities. And so I'm happy to kind of be a small cog in the wheel, or a spoke that kind of helps facilitate people being able to move their life a little bit forward. You talked about thriving as opposed to surviving at in the early part of the introduction, and I think that's what we have to work toward.
Phil, and I want to say thank you, man, for such a well-rounded introduction. I mean, you touched on so many things, not only about your history, but also about your business and the idea and the concept of having more than one iron in the fire.
Oh yeah.
And I'm excited to hear about, more about your book, Triumph in the Trenches, because it says so much just like in a visual. The triumph, getting through something difficult, coming out of the trenches, etc.
Oh yeah.
And I think that there's a lot of analogies there that folks can understand, like with sports and so forth, and how like you've got to go through this process, this learning, this training, then you compete, then
Right.
you get the rewards, etc. I
Right.
also want to make sure that before we finish up, we talk about collaboration, because your book, Triumph in the Trenches, you spoke about having conversations with professionals throughout the country who are part of your network, and how have shared their lived experiences, and you've compiled that into your book. Can you just talk a bit more about the importance of collaboration? And specifically, can you talk about the importance of collaboration for people who are considered African American, consider themselves African American?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question, Jacques, and for me it's a huge question, and I can't respond to that in the context of just the book. But what I will say is that there are opportunities for us to be able to work together in lots of unique ways. The publisher of this book, Ilona, um, is is an excellent author, and award-winning author in her own right, and has this passion for bringing folks together in a way that helps us to be able to share our stories. And I think we have a lot of things to share based on our lived experiences that I think are empowering. One of the things I talk about is my journey to empowerment, right? And I think the ability for us to be able to work together is very empowering, and it also lifts the veil a bit in terms of us feeling sometimes like we're out there by ourselves. And I think it's not by design that when you look at the many of the corporate structures around the country and throughout the world for that matter, um, that we find ourselves sometimes in an environment where there are not many other folks that look like us. And so we get the sense sometimes that we're a minority when we're really not. And so that's one piece of the puzzle. The other piece, when I look at it in a broader sense, is I can't help but think about the fact that collectively, you know, as consumers, we spend probably 1.8, getting up to 1.9, probably soon to be $2 trillion in terms of what we spend in the economy. And we have to find a better way of exercising what we get in terms of a return on investment for those dollars that we spend. A number of those companies that we spend our dollars with do not invest in our community, do not support causes that we deem important, do not recruit in historically Black colleges and universities to really bring on the next generation of leaders for their businesses. And so we have to start thinking about, how do we combat that? Um, one of the things that I look at is, we spend a lot of money on a lot of things, but we don't own any specific industry, right? We're not really out manufacturing our things that we use. We spend a lot of money on sneakers, but we don't necessarily own a huge share of the sneaker manufacturing industry. We spend a lot of money on designer handbags, yet there are not many of us that are designing and manufacturing those kinds of goods. In fact, there was a lawsuit some time ago by a family, the name escapes me right now, but it's a Nigerian family that is expert in leather, and lots of the leather goods around the world come from Nigeria. And this particular family filed a lawsuit because they got tired of seeing Italian leather inscribed on everything, and the leather was not coming from Italy. And so they won that lawsuit. But what you see now when you buy leather a lot of times is you see genuine leather as opposed to Nigerian leather. So they had no problem calling it Italian leather, but they refused to call it Nigerian leather. So now when you buy leather, a lot of times you see genuine leather inscribed on it, right? So we make a lot of contributions in a lot of different ways for which we don't necessarily get adequate credit. And so I think it's important for us to talk about collaboration. It's important for us to build collaboration, and it's important for us to start looking at some of those dollars that we spend as consumers and converting those dollars into investment.
Phil, I appreciate again the well-rounded approach of the information that you shared. And I know this is going to be a nice lead into some of our other conversations. And then also for me to be on location when you do
Oh
some
yeah,
of these speaking engagements, when you're actually physically interacting with folks, explaining to them in a way where they can take something tangible away with them and they can build a better life for themselves and then teach others, how to do this.
right.
In finishing up today, and again, I know you're going to be back at a later time.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Finishing up today, I'd like for you to just touch on some of the things that you may have coming up, and then make an appeal for folks to reach out to you now to hear about what you're doing and to get involved and buy your book, etc.
Oh, absolutely. Well, in terms of the book, people can get a copy of the book on my website, which is phillipwoolfolk.com, right? That's Philip with two L's, WOOLFOLK.com. That's my speaker website. It also shares information about some of the topics that I speak about. And the book is available for purchase through that website. In addition to that, one of the projects that I'm working on right now is Triumph in the Trenches has done well and been well received, and we're now have another collaborative effort that's going to be volume 2 of Triumph in the Trenches. That's going to be is scheduled to be released during Black History Month next year. And then I have my own book that I'm also working on that will probably be released during the second quarter of 2025. And my wife and I next week are off to Ghana exploring the Western African nation and kind of looking at what opportunities there might be for folks like us who want to begin to explore opportunities in our native land. So looking forward to that, and I'll be traveling with a journal and taking some notes and hopefully coming back with some stories from that trip. Um, and Yeah, I think in probably starting in January of 2025, based on some of the conversations I've had, I'm expecting to have on my calendar some book signing, some speaking engagements, and some other activities, and certainly continuing to work with folks on access to capital through Main Street Advisory as an alternative lender, and then supporting folks in terms of their business growth by helping them to establish business credit. So that's a little bit of what I have cooking, Jacque.
Well, as long as you're cooking, I think that we're going to be okay.
All right. Well, thank you
Thank
so much.
You're
Appreciate
welcome,
the
Brent.
time. It's been
Yeah,
a pleasure.
we'll be in touch shortly, Phil. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. And there you
Bye.
have it, folks. Another opportunity for you to engage with some folks from my network who are doing amazing things. Folks who I admire, folks who have a skill set that I admire. And I think it's important for you to reach out to them as well. Don't be shy at this point in time. This is what Trenton 365 Media is all about connecting and bringing people together so that we can build a better community for everyone. In closing, remember, it's always about justice, peace, and humility.